Vision IB, where physics becomes clarity.
So hello my dear student, hope you are all doing well. This is our fourth lecture on thermodynamics, and in this lecture we will cover the concept of second law of thermodynamics. We will cover the concept of entropy. We will also learn about the spontaneous and the non-spontaneous processes. So like if you haven't watched my previous video, you can go please watch that video. I have attached the link in the description below. So let's start with the second law of thermodynamics. So before starting the second law of thermodynamics, there were two most famous scientists. One is Kelvin Planck, and the other one was Clausius. So first I will explain you the Kelvin Planck statement. So what does Kelvin Planck statement says? It says that no process is possible whose sole result is the absorption of heat from a hot reservoir and its complete conversion of heat into work. So I will explain you this with the simple diagram. Suppose we have this reservoir, one is hot reservoir, and we have the second reservoir, that is cold reservoir, and in between we have a heat engine. So what is happening, what this Kelvin Planck statement states, that it states that heat, like whatever heat, it is not possible to convert all the heat received from hot reservoir. All the heat cannot be converted into work. Some of the heat will be lost to the surrounding. So this is the basic thing. Like it says that no process is possible whose sole result is the absorption of heat from a hot reservoir and its complete conversion into work. You cannot take all the heat from a hot reservoir and completely convert it into work. So it is not possible. So this is what the Kelvin Planck statement states. Now let's have a look at the Clausius statement. So Clausius statement is also same as Kelvin Planck statement, but there is like the wordings are different and the way to explain them is bit different. So now let's have a look at the Clausius statement. What does Clausius statement states? It states that no process is possible whose sole result is the transfer of heat from a colder object to a hotter object. Like we have this hot reservoir, we have this cold reservoir. So what, and in between we have this refrigerator, right? So it states that you cannot take heat from a cold reservoir and transfer it to the hot reservoir. So it is not possible. So if you look at both Kelvin Planck statement and the Clausius statement, they look different, but the main theme, what they are trying to explain is same. So this simply means that you cannot, from both these statements, from Clausius statement and Kelvin Planck statement, we understand that we cannot convert all the heat into work. Like all the heat will not be converted into 100% work. Some of the heat will be lost to the surrounding. So this is what this both statement is trying to say, both Clausius statement and the Kelvin Planck statement. So now I think we are ready to learn the concept of entropy. I think you might have studied about entropy in your books and you must have watched a lot of YouTube video, but in this video I'm trying to make the things simple and in the understandable manner. If we look at the concept of entropy, what does entropy means? So in the simple word, if I were to say, entropy is a measure of disorder or the randomness in a system. It is the measure of how the system is disorder or randomly spread. So if the system is more disorder or spread out, it has higher entropy, and if the system is more order or arranged, it has lower entropy. So you can see from this example of this brick, like this brick is scattered, it is in disorder state, so we can say that it has high entropy, while it is in ordered state. Now you can see that it is in ordered state, these bricks are in ordered state, so it has low entropy. Similarly, if we can look at the example of solids, liquid and gases of the matter, we can see that in solids the atoms are arranged. so the randomness is less. So we can say that entropy is also less. Entropy of a solid is less as compared to the entropy of a liquid. In this you can see the atoms are like a bit scattered. Atoms are scattered, so it has higher level of entropy. And the gas, this gas, in this gas the atoms are scattered much more, so it has higher level of highest level of entropy. So as we see, as in this example of solid, liquid and gas of a matter, we see that as the matter goes from solid state to liquid state to the gaseous state, the entropy keeps on increasing. So you can have a clear understanding of entropy from your looking at your bedroom. If your bedroom is clean and organized, I can say that entropy of that room is low. And if your room is messy, congratulations, the entropy of your room is high. So this is the concept of entropy. So now we will look at the change in entropy in more mathematical term. So here as you can see that entropy is denoted by delta S. So we can see the equation that delta S is equals to S final minus S initial. So S final means the final entropy of the final state, and S initial means the entropy of the initial state of a system. So what do we understand from this equation is, like if the final state of a if the final state of a system is greater than the initial state of the system, we see that delta S is greater than 0 in that case. So I can clearly say that the entropy during that phase has increased. The entropy has increased, right? So now let's have a look at this equation again in other form. So again, if I write delta S is equals to S final minus S initial. So in the second case, if I say that the final entropy is less than the initial one, so I can clearly see that delta S will be less than 0 in this case. So in this case I can say that entropy has decreased. So this is what I have written in this slide. Like you will be able to clearly understand from this, like if delta S is greater than 0, the entropy will increase. If delta S is less than 0, entropy will decrease. And this is the equation of change in entropy, right? So now we will learn about the physical meaning of change in entropy. This delta S is change in entropy. If delta S is positive, the system becomes more random. So delta S is positive means what? Delta S is greater than 0. And if the delta S is negative, system becomes more order. So in this case, if the delta is negative, I can say that the entropy has decreased. And if the delta S is positive, we can say that entropy has increased. So what does the delta S mean? As I'm saying it again and again, delta S means it is a change in entropy, right? So hope you understand this physical meaning of delta S. Now we will have look at some examples of entropy, change in entropy. Suppose the ice is melting at 0 degrees Celsius. So what is happening in this? The ice is transforming from solid to liquid. So it is going from ordered state to more disordered state. So what is happening here? We can see that delta S becomes greater than 0, as I have explained previously. Second example, we will have a look at water freezing at 0 degrees Celsius. So what is happening during the freezing of water is that this liquid water gets converted into solid. So in this case, something different is happening. Like in this case, the matter is going in a reverse order. It is going from a random order to a more ordered state. So in this case, I can say that delta S is smaller than 0. As I have explained earlier, if delta S is smaller than 0, it means that the entropy of the system has decreased. Now we will have a look at the expansion of a gas in a vacuum. So the molecules of gas spread out randomly randomly in a vacuum. So in this case, what is happening? Again, the entropy has increased. So I can say that in this case, delta S is greater than 0. So I would like to explain you again that delta S represents change in entropy. So now let's have a look at spontaneous and non-spontaneous process. So what is spontaneous process? What comes to your mind when you see the word spontaneous? So if I were to explain you it in the simple words, a spontaneous process is a process that occurs on its own without outside help. It does not require any external work. It happens on its own. So just keep in mind one thing. If I am saying the word spontaneous, it does not mean fast. It only means that it does not require any external force to do the work. For example, you can see the rusting of iron. It is spontaneous. It happens on its own. But the point to be noted here is that this process is slow. Second, we can see the combustion of a petrol. So in a diesel engine or a petrol engine, we have the combustion of we can see the combustion of a petrol. So in that process, it is spontaneous but also fast once it started. So does not compare spontaneous to something very fast. It only means that it does not require any external work to be done on it, right? So now we have to look at the non-spontaneous process. If we have to look for the non-spontaneous process, a process that cannot occur in its own or require an external energy to do the work. In simple words, if I were to explain you, it cannot, the spontaneous process does not take place on its own. You will always have to provide an external energy in order to make the non-spontaneous process work. So here we are some basic examples from which we can understand the non-spontaneous process. The most famous one is the flow of heat from cold reservoir to the hot reservoir. So in this example, what is happening? So we already know, if we have studied thermodynamics, we already know that heat always flow from hot reservoir to cold reservoir. This is the law. Heat always flow from hot reservoir to the cold reservoir. But if I want to transfer heat from a cold reservoir to the hot reservoir, I will have to provide some work. And this is the work of our refrigerator and air conditioner. They always take heat from cold reservoir and supply to the hot reservoir by doing some kind of work on it. So like the basic example, if I were to explain you, if I have this uphill and the water is flowing this downhill, right? Water is flowing down the hill. So in that case, you don't have to provide any energy for water to move, right? Because the water flows down the hill just because of gravity. So you don't have to provide any work, or it is a spontaneous process and you don't have to provide any kind of work. But if I were to say that I want to make this water go up instead of downhill, I want to make this water go up. So in that case, you will have to do work against gravity. So this is the example of a non-spontaneous process. So hope you understood the spontaneous process and the non-spontaneous process. So after understanding the Kelvin-Planck statement and the Clausius statement, spontaneous process and non-spontaneous process, and after learning about the concept of entropy, I think you guys are ready for the definition and for the understanding of the second law of thermodynamics, because we have already covered all the basics, that all the ingredients or the basic that is required to understand the second law of thermodynamics. So the second law of thermodynamics states that in any natural or the spontaneous process, the total entropy of an isolated system always increases. It never decreases. Like if I were to explain you it in the simple word, in any natural spontaneous process, the entropy will always increase. It will never decrease. So if we were to look at it in the practical terms, we see that heat cannot spontaneously flow from colder body to a hotter body without external work. So in practical terms, that like I would like to explain you, as we know that heat always flow from hot body to cold body, but it will never happen like the heat will flow from cold object to the hotter object without doing external work. It is possible, but without doing external work, it is not possible for heat to flow from a colder object to the hotter object. So if we were to look at the second law of thermodynamics from the energy quality aspect, we can say that while the total energy of a system is conserved, which is stated by the first law of thermodynamics, the quality of energy degrades. That what the second law of thermodynamics states. So the best example of this is heat engine. Like in heat engine, all the heat cannot be converted into 100% of the useful work. Some of the heat will always be lost in the environment or the surrounding. That's what I have tried to explain you in the Kelvin Planck statement. So hope you like this video. I have tried to keep the video short and small. Please do like and share and subscribe to my channel.
If this helped you understand physics better, like the video, share it with friends, and subscribe to Vision IB.